Been talking about it for years, and finally it's a done deal. £44 a share, the deal consummated between the boards of SABMiller and AB InBev late on Tuesday night. The share price of SABMiller had been a bit depressed before AB InBev's approach, and did they look for a cheap deal? Well, if you're like Gary Booysen, who's still hoping the deal doesn't go through, fact is AB InBev has agreed to put up £68 billion, or 1.4 trillion rand, the South African national budget for a whole year, to acquire SABMiller. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and tonight I'm barman, and I'm joined by Gary Booysen. What's your drink?
It's Miller time.
Miller time. You want Miller time? Miller time there. You would like a jogger's beer, probably. A jogger's beer, Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact. You reach for your own dream. And then I'll give you the choice of these two fine beers. Chris Gilmour, which would it be? Castelwager?
Castile of Swart etiquette. I'll have the Castile Assembly.
Castile Assembly. Oh my goodness me, it's going to be a long night. Chris Gilmour, go for the castle. I've got a drink. What do they call these?
Zamalek.
So that's we go. You know what? I'm going to put mine aside for now because I'm the responsible citizen. Please do feel free to open your beers if you so wish, because we're talking about the deal, the fifth biggest corporate deal of all time, creating an OPEC of beer. 1 in every 3 beers in the world, if this deal goes through, will be brewed by AB InBev, SABMiller. They're going to need a catchier title than that. Gary Booysen, why don't you want it to happen?
No, it's not that I don't want it to happen.
Be a man. See if you can.
Oh, that was close.
Scary.
No, for us, like, I mean, we actually held an 8% stake in SABMiller on the rise, and we've been unloading since then. We say that the risk of the deal, like, not coming off,
not 8% in aggregate. Okay.
No, 8% of your portfolio.
8% of the portfolio, yeah.
Because that would I'd give him my bit too.
Then yeah, that's more than the PIC has, and I would be definitely trying to block this deal in a more active manner. But yeah, we just felt that the risk of upside compared to downside, it wasn't there. So it's definitely time to unwind.
Have you cashed out at 800 and something bucks where it went today after?
We've downweighted, so we've still got a small weighting in it at the moment. But yeah, I think that will probably stay in the portfolio. But overall, I mean, you said it's a done deal. Like, there's still a huge amount of hurdles coming up. I mean, you've got obviously the competition issues in the US and China, which are probably the two biggest overlap sectors. And I mean, AB InBev is under investigation at the moment by the US Justice.
How big a deal is that? Because the US Justice Department is investigating AB InBev. It's saying for anti-competitive behavior when it comes to the craft beer industry in the United States. Is that a big deal? Could that unseat this, Chris Gilmour?
No, it's not going to unseat it, Bruce, but you're right. The craft beer industry is growing apace in the States and has been for many, many years, as it is in this country, funnily enough. Still much more nascent here. But no, you're right. I mean, and I think what's happening the world over is craft beer is gaining such momentum that the big guys, the AB InBevs, the SABMillers, are worried about it. Because over time, people are graduating, and I use the word graduating advisedly, because you actually do go up a few steps when you drink craft beer. And at some point in time, you know, it could, foreseeably in the future, maybe 10, 20 years from now, be of similar proportions to mainstream beer.
Are you happy with this deal? 900 bucks, South African?
Look, I'm happy in the sense that it's, in terms of the good deal for shareholders. As Carlos Brito said the other day, left on its own, SAB would never have got to anything like that kind of share price on anything other than a 10 or 12-year view, I guess. So it brings it forward for the shareholders. In terms of legacy and heritage, well, you know, I think that's a bit of a moot point. South African breweries, as it was, SABMiller today, only 7% of the share registers held in this country. Yeah. It's not a South African company, it's a British company.
There we go, Sasha Naryshkine. I mean, you've been consuming the products of this great South African company for many, many years. You've done your bit.
Slowed down in
it has
in a decade and a half.
Since you became an athlete, it has slowed down a bit. What is this? Is 900 bucks?
I think it's very fair. I think it's very, very, very fair.
I mean, they started at £29 something. They ended at £44. They were taking the mickey.
But that's against the backdrop of a fall in the share price of about 20% because of concerns of ironically, the assets that AB InBev are after, the emerging markets. So everyone started saying, oh, okay, maybe emerging markets aren't the place to be anymore. and the share price came off quite heavily, which is why first at the beginning, Jan du Plessis and his merry team, Alan Clark, who gains an awful amount from this, a lot.
Have we worked out, has anybody worked out how much Alan Clark makes personally out of this deal?
Well, I worked out that he makes about 270 million rand, that's like 13.2 million pounds, just on the shares that he's got free and clear. So those are not the options.
Yeah.
On the options, I think he makes a little bit more than that.
Plus, so 270 plus more.
Plus more.
So
more than that.
£500 million rand.
Because a lot of it's
CEO.
all in the money. So that's like 10 years worth of options.
That's a considerable incentive to do the deal. But where they've got a problem then of AB InBev, let's assume they want to keep Alan Clark. He's a great operator. He knows where all the cases of beer are stored. How do you incentivize a guy like that to stay? If you want to.
The figure I saw, Bruce, in a research report from a week or two ago was that the top management, and I really mean the top echelons of SABMiller, would share in vested options worth $1.8 billion. Okay? Now, I can't find that in the SAB annual report. So I think it has to be somewhere else. I don't know where this comes from. So you're quite right to your point. Would people be motivated to come to work, especially for such a parsimonious company as AB InBev? I don't think so. I think if it was me, I would take the money and say, hasta la vista.
AB InBev, though, have done this before. InBev bought Anheuser-Busch, and then it's now AB InBev. They've done this before. They kept the people they wanted. They lost some. I think they're quite, I don't want to use the word to mercenary, but maybe mercenary is the right word. Maybe mercenary is the right word. If you don't want the job, Gary, Sasha's waiting. And you know what? The best thing about SABMiller is it's got a deep pipeline of talent, because that's what SABMiller specialized in. That's a great strength that they've got.
Yeah, definitely. I think the synergies of a combined company that AB will be able to withdraw are going to be significant. I mean, they're known for their cost cutting, and I think it will end up as a giant benefit to the company and for SAB shareholders at this stage. I mean, it would be crazy not to take the deal. But I mean, you said it's a great deal for shareholders. What about AB InBev shareholders, Chris?
3G
No, you don't think that they're overpaying for this? I mean, because AB InBev seems to be in fairly desperate straits.
I think developed market.
Carlos Brito makes the point. It's going to take 10 to 12 years for SAB to reach this price, which implies it's going to take them 10 or 12 years to pay for it.
It's going to take anywhere between 8 and about 12 years to actually bed this thing down. You've got to get through the regulatory hurdles, and we just touched on that. You've got to unwind so many other deals that have been put in place by SABMiller over the years with Castel and with Anadolu FS, just to think of two. You've got to go through brand rationalization. Oh, and you know, in terms of getting back to profitability, in terms of digesting this thing, to try and get those cost synergies. Yeah, well, digesting it. It's going to take a long time.
These are 4 of the brands that they produce. SABMiller's got 210 brands.
Oh, is that all?
Anheuser-Busch has got 200 brands. Now, our producers are too cheap. We would rather have had Stella Artois on the table. They nearly bought Budweiser. Thank goodness they settled for these.
Some flip-top Grolsch.
Some flip-top Grolschers would be nice. But producers don't really understand our needs on the show, which is a great pity. It's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be interested in Grant Patterson's view on this, actually. The guy who went through the Walmart deal on a much smaller scale. It took them 2 years to do that deal. Grant Patterson took his eye off the ball, spent more time in America than he did at home during that time.
And now he drives a Nissan Leaf.
And now he does it. Well, he's found his soul.
He's a green man.
He's gone into renewable energy, says Grant Patterson. But he knows how hard it is to get deals through regulators. And the South African government is going to have some quite deep requirements.
You know, but as Chris points out, I mean, such a small part of the share register here. And bear in mind that 2 of the biggest deals ever done, Bruce, have been terrible ones. So the Vodafone one, buying the German telecommunications one for what, about 165 billion, and the AOL Time Warner merger.
Bad one.
I mean, those are the 2 biggest, and they're of similar size and scale. And those are the 2 worst deals ever done. And as you pointed out in the intro, what's this, like 5th, 6th on the list?
5th biggest corporate deal ever done. Now, the difference here is you're not marrying internet with print.
It's all beer. We've been making beer for, what, 9,000 years?
Exactly. Yeah. Surely this is one that can work. Or not. Gary, you don't look convinced.
Because he hasn't had a sip of
beer. If I have to be drunk to be convinced. But yeah, again, like, you know, from our point of view, like, I think it is. Like, I think the deal will go through. There's sort of the analysts are pricing in about an 80% chance that the deal is going to go through. But I'm just saying you know, at this stage, if you're an SAB shareholder, I mean, looking at the quality of the assets that you're owning, do you still want to have your money after the run-up in the share price? I don't think you want to take the risk. I can't see it. In a company, for assets that are what, you know, fairly flat volume growth, that are you know, have huge competition from craft and spirits, etc. It's for me, it's not an attractive investment at the moment.
No, so take the money and run.
Take the money and run, 100%.
Sasha?
I just want to add in there that in the AB InBev, there was a piece online in which they suggest there's going to be a listing here in South Africa.
Yes.
So if you want the listing of the combined entity in the aftermath of a deal, you're welcome to buy
But surely what you do is you take your 815 Rand today, wherever it was today, wherever it closed, I can't remember. But you take your 800 and something Rand, you take it, you pop it in the bank, or you buy something else, and in 2 years' time, when the combined value is at $700 or whatever, because they're struggling to bed it down and they've got some issues, and Alan Clark took the money in Rand or whatever the case might be.
What happens if it's at 1,000, Bruce? What happens if they do an enormous amount of cost cutting?
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, based on the experience of other mega deals, that these things are harder than they seem on paper.
Which is why most people are, I guess, going to take the cash option, and Altria and the Santo Domingo family, 41% of the shareholders, they have to take.
They've got
the
a tax
shares.
problem, so they'll take the shares, but they've got grandchildren to care about.
But there's a small cash element there, about 10% or so. So maybe that's nice for the grandkids.
Yeah, there we go. I think they'll survive. They'll be okay. You'd cash in?
Without a shadow of a doubt, cash in. The all cash, the share offer doesn't really make any sense. It's pitched lower than the, I mean, it's pitched to what, £39? 30, it's quite a bit lower than the other. Also, you have to lock up for 5 years into AB InBev shares, not the merged entity shares, AB InBev shares.
Yes.
And you have no idea what's going to happen over the next 5 years.
Okay, so you take
Warren
the cash.
Buffett said you have to own a share on the basis that the market closes for 5 years tomorrow, Chris.
Yes, but we're not Warren Buffett, and we're taking a blooming good price, 50% more than you would have got a month ago for SABMiller shares. You're taking the money and running, Gary Booysen.
Absolutely, absolutely. You got to get out at this price.
Okay, so
but I'd be interested,
sell everything.
Sell everything. Yeah, definitely. Maybe even go short at this price.
Oh, really brave. Sasha Naryshkine?
I think you got to just take the money and run. And I'm glad it's happened. I'm glad Jan du Plessis managed to eke out a little bit more.
He's the unsung hero of this thing, I suspect, because they could have gone at 42.15. They could have gone at 43.50. They went to 44, and
he knows what it's like not to do a deal. Huh?
Thank goodness he didn't do the Rio Tinto Glencore deal, BHP Billiton deal. I beg your pardon. Yeah, that's probably a good thing he didn't do it. Is it a good thing he's done this deal? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Clever guy. Well, that's it from our beer-drinking compatriots this evening. My day is over, so I can have this one. Gary Booysen, Director and Portfolio Manager at RandSwiss. Swish? I haven't even had it yet. Swish! You can have a sip now, Gary. You're off duty. Sasha Naryshkine, who's Director at Vestact. Yeah, it won't make a difference. You can drink all of that. Beer connoisseur, Christopher Skogogo Gilmour.
Cheers. I'll drink to that.
How fast have you drunk one of those before? 2 weeks?
We won't go down that road.
Okay, let's not do that. He is with Barclays Africa Group Wealth and Investment Management. I'm Bruce Whitfield. This is a Zamalek, otherwise known as Black Label. Will it survive? Will Castle survive? Castle will survive. Millers will get sold.
Strength to strength.
And Castle Light, for what it's worth, will probably survive. There'll be more mega deals, we hope, in future. For now, good evening. Prost. What do they say in Anheuser-Busch speak?
Slancher.
Slancher. That's a cost cut. Good night.